I was always wanting to rebel and do the opposite anyways. It was a weird thing. And then actually I've walked away from my faith a few times. One of the biggest ones was when I was 16, 2 of my best friends died in a car accident on the same day. And I'm from a very, very small town in Ohio where like we would have bring your tractor to school day. And so like we had a priest that like was the priest for 3 separate parishes or 3 different churches. And so I had to walk across the street from one showing to get to the next, and then literally had to leave one of the churches that I was forced to go to a Sunday mass on. I had to leave that early to get to the other church that I would, because depending the time of mass that it was would determine what location we went to. But then I had to leave that early to get to the other church for the other funeral, and the mass, like the songs that were played during the funeral are the same songs that I would hear in a normal Sunday mass. And so I was very angry at God, and I walked away from my faith then, made a lot of very, very poor decisions, all of that. And then there was even another big moment when I was in a very abusive relationship. And it was on New Year's Eve, which probably also helps contribute to why I'm not a huge fan of the New Year. Was insanely intoxicated. The abusive, toxic relationship led to a lot of issues. And then I attempted to end my life and was literally lying in my mom's arms. I was like 22 years old maybe. And I was begging her to let me end my life. I'm like, whoa, looking back at it now, I'm like, I can't believe I put my mom through that. Like I was saying, Mom, I won't do it unless you give me approval, which obviously she's like, yeah, sure, go right ahead. So, right. After that moment, and my mother and I got a chance to talk about it years after, I had slowly fallen back into church because I was in network marketing and it was a very faith-based company. And so they kept praising God all the time. So I was like, I should probably go back to church. And then it was in that moment that I actually started developing a relationship with God rather than just knowing his stats. I developed a relationship. And then years later, I was at a church, a Catholic church, and the priest was like, I want you to think of a moment when it was the darkest moment of your life. And where was God in that moment, reflecting back? And it came to that scene of my mom, like just death gripping me in my bed as I'm begging to end my life. And I'm like, there's no doubt that God's protection was over that. And so slowly was opening up my Bible, reading all of that and getting back into it. And then kind of the rest was history. So my faith journey has been just as what it is for many, I'm assuming, very, very rocky. And then even the more that I have completely surrendered and continue to daily surrender my flesh, it is insanely hard to be a Christian. But at the same time, there is no other way that I'd want to live, because God has continued to bring so much peace and joy in the suffering where the burden has truly become so much lighter.